It's time, Fort Wayne. Your sports, your station. It's the Sports Rush with Brett Rump. Covering all the topics that hit a nerve here in the Summit City.
Clark, 11 yards, touchdown.
Only on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Now here's your host, Brett Rump.
The greatest, most interesting, most important person of all time.
You are incredible.
Listen to me, I'm older and I'm wise.
Yeah, well, you're half right.
What is this, amateur hour?
This is going to be huge.
I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Just when I think you've said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
That boy ain't right.
The simplest way to put it, I have problems.
Welcome to the alleged show.
Y'all ready for this?
Thank God it's...
It's Friday, gotta get down on Friday.
Play ball! Here we go. It is time to start the 2025 TinCap season. The Sports Rush, getting you into the weekend. Your daily local sports fix, 4 to 6. I am Brett Rump, Adam Lundy in the studio. I am live on location at Parkview Field, downtown Fort Wayne, where it is 75 and sunny right now. No, not really. I can't lie. I got to tell the truth. It's a little gray, little cool, little breezy, and a little iffy for later on. But the TinCaps are on the field. They're getting loose and warmed up because tonight the TinCaps start their 2025 season, and we are here for opening day. We're going to have plenty of guests from the TinCaps. We'll be talking to TinCaps President Mike Nutter coming up here in just a few minutes. Also later this hour, Morgan Olson from the promotions department, and we'll talk to Brian Schackow of he's kind of finance, but also oversees concessions, because we really want to talk to him about what might be new at the concession stand for fans to enjoy this year. Hour number 2, we'll get to meet new TinCaps broadcaster Jaden Taylor. You'll get a chance to hear him on the call tonight with Mike Moz right here on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. And we will then speak with the aforementioned Mike Moz. As I said yesterday, beginning his 1,825th season of calling TinCaps baseball. So he will be here, and we'll have a chance to visit with him coming up at about 5:35. And I joke about that because Mike is standing right next to me here in the radio booth. So, and for those of you that know Mike Moz and his relentless prep, I mean, this guy is as prepared as anybody for every broadcast because he has every single stat imaginable that he has taped down on the counter in front of him, on the window beside him. But the other thing that's great about Mike is he is an amazing historian. His brain is nothing more than a Fort Wayne baseball Rolodex of all the stats, the history, the games, the names, the faces. He's got them. And if we need questions about did this ever happen or do you remember the last time it happened, it's amazing what this guy brings to the table. Lucky to have him here in Fort Wayne, and we'll talk to Mike to wrap up the show today. But what a big sports weekend. Tonight you've got the women taking the stage in the Final Four. Tomorrow, the men in San Antonio with Florida versus Auburn, Duke versus Houston. Of course, on Sunday, we'll decide a women's national champion, and then on Monday, the men will crown their champion. Last night, had a chance to see the championship game of the NIT, but big weekend, Adam. What's your plans?
Still dog sitting mostly. Going to be hanging out with the dog up until through Sunday night, but I'm going to be watching as much sports as possible as I can throughout that weekend.
Yeah, I know tonight the Pacers are going to be in action down at Gamebridge Fieldhouse.
Yeah.
They'll be who are they taking on tonight?
They are taking on the high and mighty Utah Jazz.
That's a team they've got to whoop around a little bit. In
Absolutely.
fact, Utah has the worst record in the NBA, just 16 victories. And that's actually the bright spot for Utah. They've lost 17 of 18. Markkanen's out, right? Is that the big loss for Utah? Is that why they have struggled so mightily? You know, the only team they beat over the last month and a half of the season is Washington, and Washington's not exactly all that good either. So, they are 1-17 over their last 18 games. In fact, they got beat Wednesday against Houston, 143-105. It sounds like a Pacers-Washington score. But this is one of those. If the Pacers show up and there's not some kind of a traffic issue in downtown Indianapolis, the Pacers should win.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lauri Markkanen is out for the Jazz along with their quality center, Walker Kessler. So, yeah, it should be one of those ones where Pacers should dominate.
And then the Pacers hit the road for a Sunday game in Denver before coming back home next week. But 260-447-8500 is the Parkview Sports Medicine text line. Questions, comments, or suggestions, you can always let us know what's on your mind at 260-447-8500. So let's talk about what happened today to Indiana. Or maybe I should say what didn't happen today for Indiana. And, this is starting not real promising for Coach DeVries. Now, you can make all the excuses you want, that he's, got plenty of time, that he's going to find just the right fit. But let's be honest, a couple of players that the Hoosiers seem to be pretty high on have visited Indiana and then decided to go somewhere else. What does that tell you? If I'm an Indiana fan, I'm a little bit concerned. Now, maybe I'm not panicked, or I'm not, totally worried, or I'm not going to start ranting on social media. But you had Ryan Conwell, a good shooter, a good wing player that the Hoosiers had in for a visit. And shortly after he slips out of Bloomington, he then commits to Louisville. And was it Louisville where Conwell ended up?
I'm pretty sure, but I'll double check just to confirm.
And then just said that off the top of my head. And then today you had Josh Dix, who came into town. Not today, but he was in town a couple of days ago before the dead period. And everybody with Indiana felt like this was the perfect fit for Coach DeVries and for Indiana, just the type of guy they needed. An excellent three-point shooter, a great scorer. He'd be a wonderful complement on the court with Enright and DeVries. And what happens? He visits IU, and today he commits to Creighton. So maybe Indiana's going to the Birds, because you've got Conwell, who I believe ended up with Louisville.
He did.
And you've got Dix, who ends up at the Blue Jays. So yeah, it's not a great run for Indiana right now, and I think you could be a little concerned with the start on the recruiting season out of the transfer portal, especially for a team that supposedly has tons of money, so it's not going to be cash that keeps people from coming to Indiana. So what is it?
Yeah, that's the question. And now the question is, who else is still out there in the transfer portal, and who's going to be coming in to check out the Hoosiers facility and talk to Darian DeVries? But like you said, you don't like to see these top prospects that have already visited go to other schools. Would love to hear if anybody has any thoughts on any players they like out of the transfer portal that they would like to see potentially at IU, 260-447-8500. But yeah, like you said, it's kind of a little bit of a skid on the brakes here to start the DeVries races here.
Well, and Flory Badunga was in town, and he's visited IU. He hasn't made a commitment anywhere else, but he also didn't jump on a chance to become a Hoosier, even though he's played his high school basketball. I can't say he's from Indiana, but he played his high school basketball at Kokomo and spent 3 years as a Kokomo Wildcat before he went off to Kansas and then entered the portal. So I think Badunga was a guy that a lot of Hoosiers fans were hopeful for. And, you're running out of those top targets because when Conwell left, it's like, well, that's okay because I think we're getting Dix. That was what I heard from Indiana fans was, they probably can only get one or the other because they may play a similar position, but ultimately they don't get either one. Conwell and Dix both going elsewhere. And so the Hoosiers continue the search to build their roster. Right now, still limited to Connor Enright and Tucker DeVries, with Luke Goody to be determined based on his medical redshirt request. And also the incoming freshman, Trent Sicily, he's committed, and he will be showing up in Bloomington. So I suppose you could add him to the roster for next year. But that's it. for Indiana right now. And that was a big one for Indiana fans earlier today. Also, big congratulations, Chase Barnes of Wayne High School and Kellen Pickett of Blackhawk Christian. Earlier today, it was announced the Indiana All-Star team that's going to be the one that takes on Kentucky. This is the state All-Star team that Mr. Basketball will wear the number 1. And both Chase Barnes and Kellen Pickett were announced as members of the 12-man squad that is going to be taking on Kentucky later this summer. So it's great to have Fort Wayne represented on that squad. And a big congratulations, both of them longtime starters at their respective schools. They've had great careers here in the Summit City, and now they get to go to the statewide stage and play with Indiana across their chest.
Yeah, huge honor for those two. Just absolute hoopers from here in our area, so definitely excited for them to get that chance to play against the Kentucky All-Stars down there.
All right, so we got to get up to date with what's happening around the world of sports. I'm anxious to hear what you've got for today's top headlines, so let's go ahead and find out what is happening. It's today's top headlines with Adam Lundy.
All right, thanks, Brett. Let's get right into it as I pull my headlines up here in the small studio that we're rocking out of today. Like you mentioned, the roster was set for the Indiana Boys Senior All-Stars, and you mentioned Kellen Pickett as well as Chase Barnes. Congratulations to both of those guys. Pacers All-Star forward Pascal Siakam was added to the NBA's official injury report Thursday evening and is listed as questionable for tonight's game against the Jazz with right olecranon bursitis. The olecranon is the bony part of the elbow, Brett.
Oh, that, it just sounds painful when you say it. I've never heard of it before, but just saying it sounds painful.
I think it's a medical term for sitting out against the Jazz. Also, wings Aaron Naismith and Benedict Mathurin were already listed as questionable for tonight's game. Centers Miles Turner and Tony Bradley, who missed games this week with illness, are no longer listed on the injury report. And a former Indiana Hoosier has his home. Ja'Kai Newton, who entered the transfer portal leaving the Hoosiers, is going to play for Georgia State University in Atlanta. And those are your top stories today, Brett.
I got one update on the injury report that earlier today Mike Moss was listed as questionable, but I do have good news. He is now probable for tonight's broadcast. So Mike Moss being upgraded on the injury report for today. We'll tell you more about that when we talk to Mike Moss later today. But it's been an interesting start to opening day for Mr. Moss.
Oh,
but
goodness.
We'll talk about that. Also, we're going to have a chance to visit with Tincaps president Mike Nutter because he's going to be joining us on the other side of the break. It is opening day here at the ballpark. We're broadcasting live from Parkview Field on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. April 1993, baseball came to Fort Wayne, the old Memorial Stadium, and in 2009 it made the move downtown, and this is where it has been ever since. It is Parkview Field, and that is where we broadcast from on this April 4th with the Sports Rush, and it's kind of exciting once again to be able to start a new season. And Mike Nutter, Tincaps president, is joining us, and first of all, it's good to see you again, Mike.
You too. It's great to have you here on site, and hopefully Mother Nature cooperates. It could go either way still, but let's wait and see it actually start raining at some point, I guess, before we start making other plans.
Well, regardless of what happens, I do have a shorter drive home from here than I would be in the studio, so it does cut some of the time off the drive. But kind of hard to believe that it's been, 16 years since that first game here at Parkview Field. Time's flying by, and you and I are both getting old.
There's no question about it. I can sit here and think about the Jets flying over on April 16th of 2009 and that historic season where we went 50-20 at home, and some stuff that will probably never happen anywhere again with any minor league team. But it was historic, and hopefully this is a good one. Here we are right on it and dealing with a 28-year-old manager, and he's an incredible communicator. We love everything so far, and so there's always excitement this time of the year because we're tied for first. I guess we're also tied for last until anybody plays, but there's a lot of optimism, and we love our partnership with the Padres, and we're ready to get it going.
Well, I'll let you be the one that talks about the the big name prospect that's landed here in Fort Wayne. And I know that's something in your relationship with the Padres, A.J. Preller, that's something important to you, that fans here in Fort Wayne are rewarded with the opportunity to see some of these top prospects. And over the last couple of years, Jackson Merrill's been here in town, Ethan Salas has been here in town, and this year it's Leo DeVries.
Yeah, we're really excited. I got out to spring training March 14th through the 21st, and it was like Maz's medical report earlier today. It was still up in the air at that point when we were out there. And so I wouldn't say politicking or campaigning, but just like, hey, it worked out okay with Jackson, didn't it? And that kind of thing. Leo's very young, very, very highly regarded. I have heard from professional scouts from multiple organizations. This is unfair to say the rest of this statement, but he's the closest thing they've seen to Fernando Tatis Jr. in terms of ability, but also the engagement, the rah-rah, the getting everybody in the clubhouse excited and into it. When the roster was officially announced a week ago, Mike Daly, our manager from last year, but also Dubs is the assistant farm director, texted me before it became official and said, hey, it's confirmed. Leo's coming. We told him he's excited. He's ready to get there. He's ready to play. And then an hour later, I got a text from Mike that said, mark it down. At the end of the season, he will be in the top 10 players of excitement and what they do that you've ever had as a Tin Cap. And Daly knows our history, and it wasn't hyperbole. It was two friends texting. And he just said the energy, the stuff is just really, really cool. I'm excited to see it. Leadoff hitter, switch hitter, a lot of excitement, young. And again, it's unfair to do this. It's like watching MLB on the, network on the draft night, and they compare every kid that's drafted to a Hall of Famer. But like, we got to spend that year with Fernando when he was about the same age, and we just had a blast. And hopefully this young man can do it. I tell everybody, this isn't even directed at Leo. This is about the whole roster. Jackson Merrill ended the month of April here hitting under 200. Fernando Tatis Jr. ended the month of April here hitting under 200. My great friend John Matthews was our manager a couple years ago, the last time we made the playoffs, and we were 4-18 or something in April, and I'm not criticizing it. It's an adjustment. Lucas Ray comes in as the manager that got to the finals in the Cal League last year, and they lost in the finals. And hopefully that's us this year. But, we'll give it a little time, let guys get acclimated, and we're ready to get rolling.
Mike, this is one thing that I talked about in the show, and I don't know if it's anything the Padres even consider, but if you need leverage in getting guys here in the future, the Padres organization has affiliates in San Antonio and El Paso and Lake Elsinore before they get here. All three warm weather climates. And I think it's important that professional baseball players, many of which, may come from warm climates, that they experience what it's like to prepare and play in cold weather. And this is what Fort Wayne offers them. So if nothing else, we've got crappy weather to give all of these guys.
I don't know how we put that on a postcard, but I told them last week when they got here, congratulations on making the Tin Caps. You're going to get to experience all 4 seasons this week, or at least 3 of them. And sure enough, it was 70 yesterday. There might be flurries next week. I actually said that to a couple people with the Padres when I said, on the pros and cons list, what would prevent him from coming? Prevent means he wasn't going to come here. What would be work against us, And one was certainly ability, right? But then 2 that I heard from a couple people was the weather. And you're exactly right. And I understand it, like on some level. And I just said, in a non-combative, I wasn't frustrated or anything like that. As I get older, I'm mellowing out a little more and more about the roster. But it's like, I said, it's cold in the big leagues, though, right? And the person just looked at me and smiled. I said, it feels like cold in Chicago and Cleveland and Detroit and, a lot of other cities. And it went our way. And become friends with Josh Williams on the WoWo dial over the last year or so. After we judged Rib Fest together and each had 28,000 calories one afternoon together, we got closer. And I heard him saying this morning to fans, get out there and see him because you don't know how long it's going to be. That's a fair statement. The Padres are excited that he's here. The Padres are excited that he's with Lucas Ray. He was with him all last year. And so hopefully he stays here a while. What I want the young man to have is a lot of success. And, we're trying to win a big one up in Petco Park, but in the meantime, I'd sure love to win some games here in Parkview Field.
Well, and, you talked about it with this team and Lucas Ray, the fact that he was the manager out in Lake Elsinore. They had some success last year, so hopefully that can translate into what they can do here at the high A level.
I sure hope so. I've talked to Lucas, and we've sat in the batting cages since they've been working out since Monday. And he's given me little scouting reports on different people because, like a lot of people, I'm trying to learn their names and faces and that kind of thing. And he's optimistic about what we bring to the table. It's so wild now with 30-man rosters.
Yeah.
I think we have like 16 or 17 pitchers. I might be off by one or whatever. And so actually, in my warped mind as I was driving in this morning, I thought, well, the managers can't give me too hard of a time about the old cliched line of we don't want to burn a starter. And it's like this early in the year, what's their pitch count? 3 innings, sometimes, and that kind of stuff.
We'll see a lot of them.
We'll see a lot of the pitchers to start this thing, and that's good. Get them acclimated. We've thrown a simulated game the last 2 nights to get guys on the mound in some live BP and get accustomed to the lights and things like that. It's been neat to see. He runs a tight ship. He's a great communicator. They flew out here on Saturday. They dropped their stuff, and for the first time that I've been here, which is quite a while, there was a day off on Sunday, and he just said, give the guys a day. They haven't had one. Well, they had Saturday off, not when the alarm goes off at 2 in the morning for your wake-up call to go to the airport, to fly into Indy and bus up and that kind of stuff, because he said, starting Monday, we're going to go.
Now I wanted to ask you about the ballpark and what's been happening here at the ballpark as far as some changes. Because first of all, I think the first thing fans will notice, at least I think they will notice, is a new lighting system. And explain why that's happened, why it's happened now, and what some of the advantages to it are.
Absolutely. So it happened, and it happened now because it was required by Major League Baseball. We knew a couple years ago we had to do the field in one off season. We did that last year, and Keith and his crew won grounds crew and field of the year. And this year we did the lights. So 2 days after the season ended back in September, the semis showed up. I didn't plan that very well. I could have used a few more days, especially heading into those holiday lights. But they've been working on it. They were out here last week. They put 100 or 200 flags out there and light sensors. So they are full LED. So it was almost $1 million for the package. They're using the same poles that we had up before. And it's wild because now it is on and off like a light switch.
Yeah,
We've never had that.
Home runs,
yes,
will you have the flashing lights and everything?
We
like
will. That? And the funny story about that is after fireworks shows, we always used to have to wait 10, 15 minutes. They had to cool down and then fire back up, and it took forever. This is off, and then when you hit them on, it's on. And so we sent an email around with about 80-point font that says the first fireworks show, which isn't until mid-May, when you turn them back on, put it at 50% because teams cranked it back at 100. And they said people were like jumping under the seats and covering their eyes and that kind of stuff. And so fans that have seen major college baseball, I think some of the big league teams are starting to do it a little bit. We use Musco lighting. They did the field at Wrigley Field. The exact same crew that did ours did the lighting up there. Over time, we will get the home runs. I think the home runs can happen now. Like if we hit one tonight, I think that goes. But I think you'll see the introduction video over time be kind of choreographed with the lights for night games and things like that. It's really, really cool promotionally. We love our fireworks. We're not talking about doing less fireworks. But in some ways, the lights become a part of the promotion and the show now. And who knows, a couple years from now, we're getting all kinds of info about those drone shows and everything like that. Again, not planning to cut back fireworks or anything, but at this time, there's so much stuff. I'm excited to see these lights get going. They still look weird to me. For the sim game the other day, I walked out here and I'm like, isn't it dark? And then the light ratings were higher than we've ever had in the history of the stadium. It's just, for some old school guys like you and me, we've been in ballparks our whole lives, but it's a different look.
Yeah, it's like going from a hazy sunshine to a real bright sunshine. Well, it also gives you the opportunity, I think, with that sandwich shooter they do from the 400.
No more excuses.
I think when they shoot it in the air, they ought to start blinking the lights, make them do it in a strobe light. We add an extra layer to that contest, make it a little more difficult. Mike, everybody knows, and you're really up front. I mean, you don't try to hide the weather from anybody.
No.
It is what it is, and tonight's forecast isn't great. So for fans that are thinking, I'd like to come out and check out opening night, but I'm a little concerned about the weather. What exactly is the policy? Fans come out tonight, get tickets.
Yeah,
if it
they
doesn't
come out
happen,
tonight,
what's the deal?
Yeah, if we don't play tonight or we don't even get through 5 innings or an official game, your ticket would be good for any game the rest of the year. So it's the one day of the year that you can say it's good for all 65 days. Like you said, we want to be respectful of our fans. There's been times like this we've sat here thinking there's not much of a shot, and you end up playing. It could go either way tonight. Tomorrow doesn't look great. Sunday looks dry, but we're all going to need to bundle up. Another great question that you might have or fans might have, hey, if it doesn't go our way tonight, would we try and play 2 tomorrow? I don't believe so. This team comes back here July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I like the idea of a doubleheader on July 2nd. There's no financial gain from it, but tomorrow's forecast in some ways is worse and cold and things like that. So if we don't play tonight, we would try and play a single game tomorrow and then a single game Sunday.
Now, is there no pressure to get that first half, second half? Is that still
still in the first half.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It is, because of this whole, it used to be Father's Day, and it's different now, and so it's hard for me to keep up, but it is, and so, or maybe it's not, actually.
I think
it wouldn't be.
June
I think it'd be right
20th
after
is usually,
it. And so we
around
might
June
have
20th.
to send it to our good friends up in the state capital of the great state of Michigan and make it up there.
But don't just anticipate there's going to be a
No, there's been many times, me included, you're thinking, man, this one's going to be really tough. I went down to the clubhouse right before coming up here, and Lucas Ray, I love it already. Oh, it looks like they're pushing it back. We're going to go tonight, aren't we? And I said, my man. We'll check in a couple hours.
Well, get ready. Based on the forecast, leave some time open on Sunday. We might have a triple header.
Yeah.
We can't play 2 tomorrow, but by gosh, 3 on Sunday sounds fine.
With a 42-degree high. What could possibly go wrong?
I'm joking. Mike, it's always great to talk to you. Best of luck tonight. By the way, with the weather, I know this is one of the greatest factors dealing with this. And, what kind of a crowd is expected tonight?
So we've sold over 3,000 tickets, which is pretty remarkable because the number hasn't moved. It's kind of like the stock market the last couple of days. It hasn't gone down, but it hasn't gone up because of the forecast and understanding. Last Sunday we got crushed, and then we got another one here recently, and so there's a lot of stuff going on. It would be between 3,000 and 4,000 if we're able to play it. I know West Michigan's home tonight. I don't believe Dayton's home tonight. It would probably be the biggest crowd in the league. My friends up in West Michigan maybe would beat us. It's just one of those things. We just hope we get a chance.
One last question I just thought of. Is this the earliest date that you've had a home game?
We were talking about that earlier. Somebody said there was an April 2nd, but it sure feels like it to me. And when we look at it next year, we don't have the complete schedule, but we know we're home next year on July 4th, and fans are asking that all the time. A guy stopped me the other day. I was at brunch. I thought I was incognito, just walked into a place with my head down. Why didn't we get July 4th? I said, come on, man, I'm just trying to get an omelet. And I said, hey, it's going to rotate every year now. So the 16-year run was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
And next year's opens on the same, like one day later, but we would open on the road. So we'd be back to the Tuesday through Sunday thing.
Mike, appreciate it. Best of luck this season.
Thanks so much.
That is Mike Nutter. I was going to call him Mike Moss. Mike Nutter joining us, Tincaps president here at Parkview Field. It is opening night for the Tincaps season. Of course, Major League Baseball, they've been playing for a week now, and you've also got AAA already in action, but tonight, everybody else gets going. The Tincaps right now on the field taking batting practice. So hopefully that rain stays away and we do find a way to squeeze in a baseball game here at Parkview Field. We're going to take a timeout. We're going to come back. Morgan Olson is going to talk about some of the exciting promotions that'll be happening this season with the Tincaps when we come back to Parkview Field with the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Broadcasting live from Parkview Field as we get, we hope get in the opening night ball game here between the Tincaps and the Lansing Lugnuts. And so right now the Tincaps are on the field getting in some batting practice. And, of course, a lot of this roster has come in from Lake Elsinore, where they played a year ago and went all the way to the Cal League Championship, but fell just short. But what's nice is there's also a handful of names that fans are going to recognize from a year ago that had a cup of coffee or two here in Fort Wayne, many of them near the end of the season. So there's some familiarity with this roster, but the game tonight, 7 o'clock, there's tickets available. If the rain holds out, it should be not a bad night for baseball. I mean, 50 degrees in April, you got to take what the weather gives you. We're joined now. It's our pleasure to welcome to the Sports Rush Jaden Taylor. Jaden is the new voice of the Tincaps up here in the broadcast booth. Now, you remember, you've got a pretty high bar here, Jaden. There's been some pretty big shoes that you've got to fill. And we go through the years, and you look at guys like Mike Cousins and Kevin Fitzgerald and Mike Monaco and, Michael Tricarico. And, I mean, the list goes on and on of guys. But welcome to Fort Wayne. Pressure's not on a bit.
Yeah, not on whatsoever with that kind of list. It's an honor to be here with those kind of names and to be trusted to be amongst that group is really special, and I'm glad to get going.
Let's get to know you a little bit. What, first of all, got you into broadcasting? Where did you get the bug that's what you wanted to do?
So I played baseball from pretty much the age that I was 3 until I wrapped up my high school days, and it was honestly COVID was oddly the big thing that got me into broadcasting. I would always kind of watch broadcasts as a kid and do my own little play-by-play of my own little games, but I didn't really think it was kind of a thing that I would build myself into a career for. And my high school had a couple opportunities my first 2 years, and then COVID, it was known that we were going to have games, but we weren't going to be able to have people there. So the broadcast was needed, and that was kind of something that I took on, and it's been going ever since.
And where was high school for you?
Westside High School in Omaha, Nebraska.
And, of course, we were just talking today. The big announcement is that Josh Dix is going to be going to Creighton. Of course, we had a text that came in. We should have known that because he's got an ill mother. He was going to want to stay somewhere in Iowa, and he ends up in Omaha, which, by the way, is not Iowa, even though it's very close. But that was the big news for Creighton. So I guess, do you follow Creighton?
I was excited for that signing, 100%. Yes, it is needed with the loss of Kalkbrenner and Stephen Ashworth.
Well, maybe by the end of the summer, you can move your allegiance a little bit toward the school states or the state schools, I should say, here in Indiana. I know we can't convert you to a full-blooded Hoosier, but at least, a little bit along the way.
The tradition's there, so you got to respect that bare minimum.
So you grew up in Omaha then?
Correct.
And now, where did you go to college?
I went to Arizona State University at the Walter
Now, I got to stop you right there because I can't believe you're here in Fort Wayne and you weren't through Syracuse.
I know.
How'd you pull that off?
It's a wondrous question. I think I ask myself that every single day. But yeah, it's been a pipeline here with Syracuse guys, and it's a reason why, right? There's so many incredible broadcasters that come through that school. Cronkite itself has had a lot of guys as well. I've just got added to a group chat today. We got 10 of them, 10 former Cronkite broadcasters that are now in minor league baseball. So it's we're trying to make ourselves in the mix a little bit, take over little different spots when we can.
What did you get to do at Arizona State? Because you don't just go in there as a freshman and the first thing you get handed is the lead play-by-play job. So what was it like at Arizona State?
Yeah, it's very similar to Q's in the layout regarding freshmen. You're kind of building new, smaller sports, play-by-play here and there, doing a lot of different local stuff as well. Did a lot of volleyball. Was the TV voice for Arizona State volleyball for 3 seasons. And the big thing for me was the Arizona Fall League. I got lucky to be able to do that for 3 seasons. Saw Leo DeVries this past fall. Incredible kid. We'll talk more on him, but he is going to be a big piece of this lineup, and I'm really excited to see what he's got going this year too. And Fall League's been great. Met a lot of other minor league broadcasters, and then had the opportunity this past year to be the sports director for Blaze Radio, which is the student radio station at Arizona State.
Oh, That's awesome. So you've kind of come all the way up the ranks out at Arizona State.
Yeah, it's a lot of different options. Got the grateful opportunity to do the Fiesta Bowl this past year, which we get the opportunity to do every single season, which is just incredible being out in the Phoenix area, which is, the greatest thing about being at Arizona State, just being in the Valley with so many opportunities there.
So let's talk about this team, because I know you've been in Fort Wayne, 2-3 weeks now?
Yeah, just 3 weeks.
And you got a chance to spend some time at spring training and observe the team. I saw some videos you posted on social media. What have you seen with some of these guys? And let's start with Leo DeVries.
Yeah, Leo DeVries, again, he's the mutant for a reason, right? They call him El Mutante. He is a freak of nature, truthfully. I mean, the bat-to-ball skill is the biggest thing that you're going to see this early on. I think that's why it's going to play well in the cold weather. Very smooth swing, very fluid on both sides, right? Switch hitter, able to hit on both sides. Again, incredibly smooth as well defensively over there at short. He was the youngest player in the Arizona Fall League this past season to hit a home run since Bryce Harper. So in pretty good company. He's going to be a big piece. He'll be a guy every day pretty much at the top of the order. And
I think I'm watching him in the cage. Is that DeVries in the cage?
That is DeVries currently. I think you're going to see a lot more power out of the left side. You're truly smooth swing. A lot of gappers. You're going to see pull side as a righty. He's got great hands, and it's the biggest thing. He's a young kid, just turned 18 this past October, so a lot of room to grow just as a young kid, but, man, he is special.
So one of the big questions that DeVries is going to face, can he play left field? Because, you know the connection there. We've had Fernando Tatis Jr., who was a great shortstop here in Fort Wayne, ends up with the Padres playing right field. Then you have Jackson Merrill, another great shortstop 2 seasons ago, and now he ends up playing in San Diego as a center fielder. So I guess that left field spot is open for another TinCap shortstop.
Yeah, they had Leo playing a little bit of second base in the Arizona Fall League this past October and November. The Padres are pretty set on him being shortstop, at least through the minor league ranks. You'll see when and if he gets to that next level of where they put him. But the shortstop position seems to be the best spot for A.J. Preller in the group.
Before we let you go, and we're talking to Jaden Taylor, who is going to be one of the voices of the TinCaps that you hear all season long here at 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM, including tonight, weather permitting, with Mike Moss on the broadcast. But your trip into Fort Wayne, is it a first for you? Have you been to Fort Wayne before? What have you been able to experience so far in the city?
Yeah, so I got one opportunity to come down to Fort Wayne this past summer. I was with the Kalamazoo Growlers, summer collegiate wood bat team up in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Got an off day to come down here and see this beautiful ballpark. But yeah, it was a 3 full day trip in the car going from Phoenix all the way out here. But I've loved it. I mean, it feels kind of like home in Omaha a little bit, very similar to Lincoln, which is where Nebraska is at, University of Nebraska down there. So very similar. I'm used to this cold weather, which been a difference last 3 years being down in Arizona, but getting back used to seeing four seasons the full year.
Well, enjoy it. We're glad to have you here in Fort Wayne, and don't let the guy that's sitting over your shoulder or standing over your shoulder right now drive you too crazy this year.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, he apparently he's been a really good mentor because the people that again have sat in this seat have had a pretty good career, and I'm sure you're going to have one ahead of you too. Appreciate it.
Appreciate the time.
Yep, that's Jaden Taylor joining us here on the Sports Rush. We got to keep the show moving because we're going to be joined by Brian Schackow, who is handling concessions, some food services. We want to find out what is going to be some of the things on the menu that you can enjoy here at the ballpark this year. That is coming up next right here on the Sports Rush, broadcasting live from Parkview Field on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Welcome back to Parkview Field. It is opening night here at the downtown ballpark, the gem of the city that has been open since 2009. TinCaps on the field right now taking batting practice, getting set to take on the Lansing Lugnuts tonight. And, of course, we are proud to once again be the radio home of TinCaps baseball all season long, including tonight where Mike Moss and Jaden Taylor, who we just heard from, will be bringing you play-by-play action here at home of TinCaps baseball. And speaking of Parkview Field and the gem that we have down here, one of the guys You might be the most well-kept secret among the staff. We've got Brian Schackow is joining us, and
nice of you to say. Thank you.
But when one of your roles is to come into the press box, climb on the roof, and get foul balls,
that is
you're the grunt guy, right?
That last bullet point in all duties is assigned by the team president. Man, he uses that quite a bit.
But no, Brian handles finance here at the ballpark and with the Tincaps. But also John was touting you as a guy that's been more actively involved with the food, beverage, and concession services this year. And so we're kind of excited to talk to you, not about the dollars and cents. That will bore us. But
it bores me, and I do it. So.
But what we really want to know is, as fans, what are we going to look forward to at the concession stands this year?
Well, we do have some new stuff. This is my 26th opening day, so that's kind of how I got into the food. They're like, hey, you've been around enough of these. What else can we be doing?
You've personally eaten everything on the menu.
Exactly right. I mean, you get to a certain senior status, and they're like, all right, now you can do food and beverage too. So, we got some fun stuff. But, one of the things I always love talking to people about is, if you go back, 50, 70 years to a baseball game, 90% of this is all really the same. Now, the video boards, the production, the promotions are a little different, but the staples are still hot dogs, beer, popcorn, number 3 sellers, the top 3 sellers here. That's always going to be the case. But, we do have some fun stuff on the outskirts that, for people like me who are here every day, like yourself. The thing I'm probably most excited about at the Apple Cart this year, we have a grilled cheese sandwich that is going to be toasted, and it comes with bacon and apple slices on it, which doesn't sound super enticing, but I guarantee you'll love it. We gave it to a few guys, media guys last night, Wednesday night at the Meet the Team and rave reviews. So that is the thing we're probably most excited about. We got at stand 3 this year, we have what's called a chicken tower, and what this is a double order of chicken tenders, a triple order of French fries. It comes in a souvenir helmet with a skewer through it, and the chicken's all stacked up. So we got stuff like that. I mean, that's going to be fun for people to have, see if 2 kids can finish it. I'm sure they can. Maybe, or one Brian Schackow.
It's interesting in that role, being, taking a more active role within food and beverage. I think one of the things for fans is and one of the big challenges for the ballpark, trying to balance the ability to provide good service, good food, but also do it in a timely manner. How big of a challenge is that for the staff?
It is very difficult because most ballparks are set up for that sweet spot, at least this ballpark, 3,000, 4,000 people. We can handle that with, one arm tied behind our back. But when you get to 7,000, 8,000, it's a lot like church on Easter Sunday. You know what I mean? They got to bring in some extra chairs. They got to bring in some stuff. So you try and manage it as best you can. So because obviously we only have 66 home games to make all of our money for the year. So you don't want to overstaff, over prepare. So you try and constantly get that sweet spot. But to your point, several of our carts this year and stands 3 and 4 are going to self-ordering kiosks, which if you came out for the holiday lights, you might have seen. We think that's going to allow us to work a lot quicker and get people through the line a lot faster as the season goes on. So that's definitely a point of emphasis for me. And because you want a great experience here. You don't want to stand in line for 3 innings waiting for these things that I'm telling you about. So that's definitely a focus. We think some of the technological changes we're making will help us with that as well.
You brought up a really good point about the holiday lights and that this was the first year for that event. How did it change the off-season for the staff here at Parkview Field?
Drastically. Well, and I joked with a lot of people that, October through December is when we usually have our feet up on the desk. And that's sort of tongue-in-cheek because that's really when we do a lot of planning. That's when we recharge the batteries. That's when we get out of the office for a while. And this year, it was a 5-alarm fire here for 3 months, learning how to do that, how to staff it, how to get people through. So, we didn't really catch our breath until, mid-January. And then it's like, hey, we got a season in 60 days, 90 days. So it very much changed it. I think we're caught up. I would be a lot more nervous today if it was 65 and sunny and we were getting ready to have 7,000 people here.
Yeah.
But that's the silver lining when you have a tough weather weekend like this, that, a couple thousand people give us a chance to work out a few more kinks too that maybe we would have liked a little bit more time to prepare for. But, yeah.
Didn't have a chance to ask Tincaps President Mike Nutter this. We had him on earlier in the hour, but I will ask you and put you on the spot. What about hiring for the ballpark? Because so many people, this comes up and it's like, oh man, I should have put in an application, or I've got somebody at college that's going to be coming back. Are there still positions available?
Absolutely. And what we usually see is, what I will say is, hiring has been a lot easier this year than maybe 3-4 years ago coming out of COVID. That was very difficult to find, people to work. It's been a lot better this year. We're a lot more well-staffed. But what we usually have happen is we have a lot of people in February and March who really ramp up and want to work out here, and then they work opening weekend or they work that opening homestand and it doesn't work for their schedule or plans change. So we always have that second wave of people who join us, late April, early May when we start to get the college kids back. So if there are folks at high school, teachers that are, have the summer off, people like that think, hey, what might be cool, we definitely will be hiring another wave of people here as we go through this month.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the big trivia question, and I don't know if you'll have the answer, but in an average year, how many baseballs are used here at Parkview Field?
Man. Do you know the answer? Or
no, I have no idea. I'm asking you, hoping maybe you've got a ballpark.
I would think... it's a great question. I'm going to ask Sam Lewis, our clubhouse manager, when we get off here and go.
Because I know you collect quite a few. So
I would guess 100 to 150 per game. So 6,600, between 6,600 and 10,000 would be my guess. That's a pretty wide range, but that's how you do it in finance. You don't pencil yourself into one answer. You give a huge range, and then
if it ends up being somewhere in there, you've hit the bullseye, right?
Exactly right. Well, we were only off by 10%, and I gave you a 9,000 ball range. So, I'll ask. That's a great question. But I know we rub up, it's like 10 dozen or something like that per game. So I got to imagine it's even crazier than I think. Because you see now, too, it used to be when I played or when we played, you played with that ball until you couldn't see it anymore.
Yeah.
Now, if it just barely touches the dirt and gets a scuff, it gets tossed out. So it's a different world.
What is the craziest job you've ever had to do as a staff member here at Parkview Field?
At Parkview Field.
What you mentioned that little line, that jobs as assigned.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious because I know you've done a number of odd things around the ballpark.
Really, honestly, you said you didn't want to talk about finance, and I respect that. But really, for me, the stuff I see for an expense report, you wouldn't believe. Like the stuff, we get clothing for DJ Tin Cat comes across, and you're like an expense report for $30 on Amazon, and I don't know where to code this. So some of those things are a little crazy. You put me on the spot on the crazy stuff. We've had so many celebrities out here in concerts. There's always crazy stuff like that.
Are you telling me DJ Tin Cat is not AI generated?
No, that is a real cat that needed a real costume, that needed real jewelry. So, yeah, that
does a great job playing the DJ.
He does. He's become kind of an institution because that DJ Tin Cat was here in 09. So he's survived the test of time for sure.
Brian, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Best of luck with the season. Hopefully we keep the skies dry. The radar's ever changing. And for those of you that are listening, that are debating whether I want to be there or not be there, I can tell you this, over the last 5 minutes, and I don't know if it's just Brian being up here or what, but it's gotten brighter. Have you noticed that? It got brighter.
I am optimistic. And to your point, if people are considering coming out, I don't know what the next couple hours are going to do from a weather standpoint, but I will tell you, we're going to have an opening night party one way or the other. How many ever pitches we throw and innings we get through, we're going to get the taps opened up, and we're going to celebrate the start of the season one way or the other.
What time do the doors open tonight?
6:00 tonight.
Okay, 6:00 gates will open, so you can come on out here and be a part of the opening night festivities. Thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do.
Brian Schackow joining us here on the Sports Rush. We got another hour still left with this program, broadcasting live at Parkview Field. It is a Friday edition of the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.